You've had decluttering on your to-do list for a long time, but things just keep coming up and decluttering keeps going down your to-do list doesn't, right? And maybe it's just not happening. We've all been there. So let's talk about two things that are getting in your way and preventing you from taking action on decluttering. If we haven't met, I'm Katie Wells, declutter expert, and through this YouTube channel, my Maximized Minimalist podcast, and my online programs, I've helped hundreds of thousands of people declutter their home and love their home again. So number one is perfectionism. So many people, and this was me too, are so stuck in doing things perfectly. And if you can't do it perfectly, why do it at all? That was my motto in life for many years until I became a mom and learned that it just wasn't possible. So if you keep waiting for the perfect time, the perfect weekend, right? Maybe you're waiting for the perfect checklist, the perfect method, the perfect strategy, the perfect downloadable printed PDF, whatever it is. You are probably stuck in perfectionism. Or maybe you're just waiting for this elusive 8-hour chunk of time that's gonna magically appear one weekend. But guess what? Your time fills up quickly. And decluttering, even if it's on your schedule, is a really easy thing to procrastinate about, which hint, hint, might be what we're talking about in just a few minutes. Maybe you're waiting to just feel like it. Maybe you're like, okay, I'll declutter, but it's gotta be a day where I feel like it. But that motivation never comes. And you might have thought, probably subconsciously, if I can't do decluttering perfectly or how I envision it should look or does look for other people or should look for me, I'm not gonna do it, right? What's the point if I can't do it the way I think it should look? But I'm here to tell you, decluttering done imperfectly still blesses you and your family, all right? I know this being stuck in perfectionism so well because this was me many years ago when I had 2 sons. They were 2 years and under. I was working full time and I was that person who was looking for the perfect strategy, the checklist. I probably had hundreds of downloadables on my Pinterest. I would print them out or have them on my phone, and then I'd be like, oh, but I need the right time, or I need my husband to take the kids, or I don't feel motivated today, so I'm waiting for the perfect time. And guess what? I kept kicking the can down the road, as they say, and the clutter and the mess and the piles were building every single day. Days turned into weeks, weeks turned into months, months turned into years, and I didn't make any progress because I never took action because perfectionism and doing it perfectly or how you envision it should look. Sorry, not sorry. It doesn't work that way. And while those piles were growing, my stress was going up, my overwhelm was going up, my anxiety and depression were going up right along with those piles of stuff. And this is why it's a bigger deal than so many people realize, is that clutter impacts so many different facets. It's not just having an untidy home. It's so much deeper than that. And I wish more than anything that I wasn't battling perfectionism early on, because I would have saw the finish line many years earlier. But anyway, learn from me. And when we believe that anything besides perfect is a failure, it's either perfect or failing, we become frozen from taking action, don't we? It's happened to so many of us. And I think this idea of doing something only if you can do it perfectly, it's just, we need to move past it. Perfectionism isn't real, it's not possible. So I think a big part of that for a lot of us out there is seriously just lowering our expectations and understanding that imperfect action is better than waiting for the perfect time because it's never gonna come. One way we can adjust that perfectionism mindset is to really adjust our lens and adjust our definition of what progress looks like and what our home looks like. You might think that having a perfectly tidy home or getting all the clutter out is progress, but so is getting rid of one pile of things. So is setting a timer for 15 minutes and just decluttering what you can. So is going through your kid's backpack after they get home from school with them and decluttering some papers that they no longer need. All of these different things are progress, so we need to count them as progress. So get a clear picture of what progress looks like for you. And remember, progress isn't having a home that looks tidy 24/7. If you think that that's progress, think again, right? Expectation, reality. When our reality and expectation don't match up, that's gonna cause even more paralyzation and overwhelm, and it's gonna be harder to get started. So bring those expectations down to reality and just start doing small things each day consistently. I also really want you to start embracing the during and giving value to the process. I get it. We all want the after photo, don't we? We all wanna reach our goals. If there were a magic pill, all of us would take it to have a decluttered home, but that's not the way it works. So the best thing we can do is make as much growth during during the during and the process, because all of that growth is going to help keep the clutter away once it's gone. It's going to help change your shopping. It's going to help reframe your relationship with stuff. It's going to help your inflow of things. It's probably going to help you shop less. And there's going to be so many different facets that growth and progress period gives you if you learn to embrace it. So I want you to start with baby steps, and I want you to develop new benchmarks for success. Okay, let's talk about the other P word, perfectionism and procrastination. I promised I would talk to you about this in another video, didn't I? So studies find that procrastination is a predictive factor for clutter accumulation and vice versa. So in other words, the more you tend to procrastinate, the more clutter you tend to accumulate. The more clutter you accumulate, the more you procrastinate. And it becomes this vicious cycle that gets so overwhelming. And you've probably been there. It gets so overwhelming, oftentimes we don't know where to begin. So not only does this indecision that procrastination creates, this indecision inhibits getting rid of things, but it's also associated with a lower psychological home and well-being. So don't think that procrastination is as innocent as it feels and that it's not really impacting you, because not only is it impacting your home, it's also impacting your mental bandwidth. And when it comes to procrastination, oftentimes, this was me too, and I hear people say, I just don't have the time. And I get it, we're all busy, but we all have the same 24 hours in a day, don't we? And I know I'm getting some eye rolls here, but hear me out. We have to go deeper than I don't have the time. So question I want you to ask yourself is, how has decluttering made me feel in the past? This is going to help you get to the root of that procrastination and actually help you dig deeper and identify what's causing you to procrastinate in the first place. Because if we don't identify that procrastination won't go anywhere. So when I used to declutter a long time ago, like a lot of people, truly what I was doing, unbeknownst to me, was organizing and shuffling the stuff around and not actually decluttering and getting the stuff out. And so what happens? I saw progress. My home felt calmer, a little tidier, a little easier to manage for a few days, maybe a week, a month if I was lucky. But then the clutter and the piles and the stuff and the stress, the anxiety went right back to where it was. And I felt super frustrated. And I thought, what the heck is wrong with me? Why can't I do this? Why do I keep failing, right? It must be something wrong with me. So when you feel like something made you feel like a failure, it probably doesn't want to make you try again, does it? So we have to move past that. And so that took me realizing that, first of all, I actually wasn't even decluttering. So I had to start getting rid of things instead of trying to organize my clutter. And then I had to constantly remind myself, I am not a failure. And I had to set those new benchmarks for success, just like we talked about earlier on, right? 15 minutes a day, 10 minutes a day, whatever that looks like for you. And I started doing that. It made the biggest difference. Another way decluttering used to make me feel is, again, great for a few days, but then when it didn't stay away, I felt like a failure. I felt guilty. I felt ashamed. Why can't I keep a tidier home? I felt all this pressure. And unbeknownst to me, my subconscious mind was comparing my home to Pinterest homes or Instagram homes, those beautiful afters. Even though I realized that that's not reality for most people and that these are staged photos that probably take 2 to 6 hours to stage, my subconscious brain didn't know. And yours isn't either, right? There's this gray area in our subconscious. We can go, I understand that that's not reality, but our subconscious brain doesn't see it that way. So here's the expectation in our subconscious is perfectly tidy and the reality doesn't match. So in this space right here, when our expectation and reality don't match, a lot of those uncomfortable feelings can come up. Resentment, guilt, shame, maybe your resentment toward your family for making your job harder as the stuff manager of your home, right? All these different things can come up. And so I want you to continue to ask yourself, how has decluttering made me feel in the past? There's gonna be more than one thing that comes up. There's gonna be all these different things. And once you identify how you felt in the past, don't judge yourself and don't shame yourself for having those thoughts or feelings or emotions. You're a human being. Instead, I want you to get curious. Maybe you need to combat some of those thoughts and feelings with, okay, that may have been true then, but things are different now. Or yes, I probably shouldn't have bought all those things on Amazon when I was stressed out, and I probably shouldn't have wasted all that money, but here's how I'm going to learn from that mistake, and here's what I'm going to do differently in the future. You can do mindset shifts. You can combat those false beliefs. You can use positive affirmations. I feel comfortable and safe letting go of these things, or whatever affirmation you need to create to combat that negative feeling you felt in the past. I want you to take this as your sign to, number one, drop perfectionism, and number two, get to the root of why you've been procrastinating procrastinating about decluttering to begin with. And I should say roots, because I promise you there's going to be more than one. If you do not do these things, it will be a constant uphill battle, and that motivation you so desperately want will never come, because perfectionism and procrastination are always going to trump that motivation. Regardless of what is holding you back, you can still declutter, I promise. But maybe it's motivation you're missing. Hey, I get it. It happens to the best of us. So click the video on your screen right now to learn how to declutter even when you're not feeling it.